So something a little different today for Fallout Friday. I have the Vault Girl STL file that I printed on my new EPAX 5K machine. So she's looking pretty good. Some layer lining, especially on the super sledge, might be able to see there. And on the left cheek, we'll see how those go as we paint though. Came out pretty good. This is printed at 0.01 layer height, so all of the details are there and looking pretty good. Any layer lining is just because of the angle of the model when it was being printed. So you're going to get where the slicing happens. That just happens to be where the angle was on the hammer. This is the pre-supported file, so I just kind of went with what they had. And the base that came with it, which is a lot of metallic, a lunchbox there, and some caps. So some nice detailed deck plating, meshing. So we'll have a bit of fun with that. But for the paint scheme for it, I'm referencing the Quick Start Guide for Wasteland Warfare. Alright, so as always, we're going to start with our flesh and build up. So I'm using Guilliman flesh. I'm still using contrast paint. If you are doing 3D printing and you're not able to get such a low layer height, you may want to go with regular paint, just because contrast paint is definitely going to show the layer lines more, because that's just the way it works. You know, it settles into all the cracks, so it's going to settle into the cracks that are the layer lines. So we'll see how this looks as we get the flesh put on. And the thumb is definitely oversized. Some people have had this complaint with the model. You can take a file to it and maybe thin it down a bit. It actually looks fine from one side. It's just when you look at it from kind of the hand side, because of the way the thumb, it looks super large going back. So that's my recommendation. If you have a problem with it, is to just go ahead and do a bit of file work. Just going to apply it here to the hands. I'm doing the hands first because then I want to start right on the vault suit and maybe even the weapon. Get up on that other thumb there. Okay. And now to the face. So As you can see on that side, looks pretty smooth. This side is where we're going to start, we see the layering almost. So that just happens to be the angle it was printing at. And as I said, using regular paints instead of contrast paints may improve that. I just want to see how they're going down so I can make my own determination on future prints. If I don't like it, I can always reprint it. That's part of the advantage of owning the STL file, is I can just go back and make another one anytime I think that there's a mistake. Okay. Let's apply some yellow here. So we've got the grip on super sledges are yellow. So we're just going to go in here and apply that. And the yellow will overshadow any of the flesh color that we got onto it, because it is such a bright, bright yellow. I could have gone with the dingier shade, but as this is, you know, kind of the Vault Girl pinup one, I want to go with these bright colors. I think they'll look better. Okay. Let's see. Just get up around there. Okay. Now towards the top we have the little cartridge, which is also done in yellow. Okay, so as we can see that yellow on the suit a bit. So the lines on the suit show up pretty well. So we're going to kind of just, are those double lined or single? Okay. So I think this entire kind of flat section in the middle is what we're going for. As it comes down. The collar. So the details are all there. It's just picking them out properly. Okay. Then the belt as well. And I'm doing the yellow because the blue will overpower the yellow. So if I need to do any touch-up work, it'll be easy enough. And on the back of the belt are the kind of metallic doodads. It's a technical term, doodad. Okay. Anything on the arms? Now we do want to get the leather as well, but I think that can wait until after the blue is applied. So I'm going to do the hair next. And I'm going to use some Aggaros Dunes. I'm also going to refocus this because it did lose as I was moving around a bit there. Grab the wrong brush. Now, one thing of note is there is her hair band. So we're doing the hair first, and then we'll do the band, because they have the band in the same blue as the vault suit. So that'll be raised a bit there and fairly easy to hit. Let's take the hair where the up against the flesh there. And come up against this band. Band kind of gets lost as this bit of hair goes over it, and we're coming up under the ear. If I reprint this, I may even just try orientating it a little differently on the plate to try and get those layer lines at a different location. All that hair as it gets in the jumpsuit. Okay. Like I said, from this side, I think it looks fine. The other side is the only one they have to worry about. And honestly, when these are on the tabletop, no one's going to pick it up. Okay, so on to the vault suit. I've been using Talassar blue when I do vault suits. It's a pretty bright blue, so I think it matches the kind of cartoony style I've been going with. So I'm going to leave around the neck right now because we got some buildup of paint there still drying. We have the little tech piece. It's right there. That's even too bright for what I want to go for. So I think what I'm actually going to do is do a mix. I'm going to do a 2-to-1 of Talassar and Ultramarines. So I still want to have some of that brightness. I'm going to try and bring it back down a little with the Ultramarines. Let's see, I do have a test model I was working on earlier. Okay, yeah. That brings it to a darker. In fact, I could probably... Nah, once that dries, it'll be perfect. Alright, so let's just start in our lower sections. I'm just going to bring this down to the boots. Looking good. Alright, nice. I'm going to do this arm up to the Pip Boy. Then up to the collar. And then the other arm is up to the leather of the suit, which is on the cusp of the arm there. see that blue went over the lighter shade we had earlier. No trouble whatsoever. Alright. Okay. Trying to make sure our lines are right up against the yellow without any huge bleed through. And now we have to get the collar. Bit of smudging there. That's fine, that's what happens. Okay. Of course, the headband is the part that requires fairly steady handwork, and a nice good brush like this always helps, because it has a good tip to it. Okay. Come in with a bit of brown to... Oh no, that should be some blue. There we go. Now, getting the other side of this arm up to the leather, being a little problematic. Fix this hair, apparently. Yep, definitely gonna have to fix the hair. And the, yeah, this is just gonna take all kinds of fixing. And sometimes that just happens. Alright. So for the Pip Boy, we're going to go with a Militarum green and I think warp lightning for the screen itself. So let's do the screen first. We want a nice vivid looking screen. Boop, boop, boop. Now, let's see if we mix a bit of Militarum and a bit of brown. If we can't get it to that more OD brownish green. What did I do with the, there it is. Aggaros Dunes is a light enough brown. Let's see how this comes out. May just come out horribly. So I've got my test fun miniature again. Actually, yeah, I think that's just what I want. Alright. You may not always have a spare miniature to test, in which case you can always just use like a piece of cardboard that you've put some spray primer that's the same color. I've done that a few times when testing various shades I want to work with. It just so happens I have a 0.05 version of this I printed first when I was just testing the printer out. I wanted a more detailed one for final painting. I have to go back over this with some of the flesh. The front of it's lost some. Okay. A little bit I've gotten on the inside of the screen. Helps to give it some shading there. That's perfect. That's just what I want. Okay. Now the rest has dried that I can apply some fix base to some of the colors I've screwed up. But before I do that, let me do the leather in case I screw that up too. So I'm going to do Snakebite Leather for both the boots as well as the cuff. Okay. More on the underside. And let's get these boots. Boots, boots, boots. All right. Fixing things, fixing things. Now we're gonna fix some things. So, Wraithbone primer. We're just gonna put this wherever I've screwed up with blue. And on her hair. That's right. I think that's good. Okay, now I'm also going to apply some gray base to this. Because there's the little tech pieces that I want to go over with Basilicanum gray. And that's just easier. It looks better when it goes over. So we've got the little chest readout thingy. And her zipper. And her whatever it is on the back. And that should be enough for government work, as they say. The hammer, I think I'm actually going to do in metallic rather than just doing gray for it, because I want it to pop a little bit. So we're going to do cold steel. And we're just going to apply that to all the pieces of the hammer that we have yet to do anything with. There are two distinct types of metal, it seems, on the hammer when you look at in-game shots and everything. The hammer and most of the shaft are a very dull metal that picks up a lot of rust. Whereas the collar, where the grip / fuel tank plugs in, and all of the connecting rods and pieces are a shinier metal. So we are going to be simulating that by applying our rust wash just to those pieces that we want to be a bit dingier. So we'll get to that a bit later. The hammer is supposed to be textured. At first I thought there was some really weird layer lines going on, but it does have a texturing on it, which came out quite nicely. The print details, the thrusters have the thruster has a little ridges on it. As I said, the patterning on the hammerhead itself came out well. So it kept all the details there quite nicely. And the rust should help pick that out as a wash. Okay. And underside. Missed a bit right there. Okay. Let that dry a bit. While it's doing that, let's go back over some of the skin here. It's pulled away a bit. just like on the front here. Apply some of that to fix. And the palm. And the ear here. There we go. And on this side. Add a bit more shade to the lips and the eyes. I don't paint eyes, but I allow the shade to darken the areas. So at a distance, it shows all of the shading where it should. Alright, back to the yellow. Alright. Where I want this fixed. Alright, perfect. And a bit there. Okay. Now for the hair. I think I want a bit of another coat higher up here. Yeah, there we go. Gives it a bit of a darker shade I want. And around the front too. Okay. Now for the Basilicanum Gray. Okay. Perfect. Now, the rest that I'm going to apply on the hammer, I also want to apply to the base in certain spots, so I'm going to do that all at once. So we're going to move on to the base now. I'm going to start with some Rune Fang steel. And that's what I want. I swear I have a bad batch of Rune Fang steel, it's just not mixing right. So we're going to go with a darker one. I'm just going to have to toss this and buy a new one, I think. Happens sometimes, especially if you let it sit. So we're just going to go with our cold steel from P3 that's doing well for us. Now, I think these are rubber mats. So I think a dark gray for the rubber matting. Then do a nice, like, Basilicanum gray as a wash over them, and that should darken them nicely. But first we'll do the metal because it is on a lower level. And since this is a different base style, I figure I'll go ahead and show it to everyone. So I'm just doing a really simple scheme again. You don't have to be super detailed and complex for it to look good on the tabletop. I did manage to get a new game in this week, starting to work on a possible settlement mode league with some friends of mine in the area. So we managed to get our first real game in this week. It was a lot of fun. And I think we did 500 points, so it wound up being 6 models aside. So there's also not a huge amount of painting you have to do. This isn't like starting a 40k army or something like that. This is much more skirmish based, which is that's right where my comfort zone is. You can wind up spending a lot more time on models that way. You can do as little work as you want, or as much, and since it's all separate models and a low count, it really lets you spend the time. It's also why I prefer Kill Team if I'm going to play 40k. That kind of squad level stuff. It allows you to do conversions, customizations, a lot of stuff like that. So one cool thing is, since I have the resin printer, I can always print more of this and then cut it up. I have the weapon packs from Modiphius, put different weapons, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I'm going to use Skaven Blight Dinge, lovely name for a paint, for the gray on this, because my other gray is starting to run out, so I want to save it for matching things that I've already used. Now, I'm not going to be... You don't have to worry about getting the lines perfect with the colors, because once we apply our washes, everything's going to kind of... That'll help blend everything together. Same with like the patterning on the tiles here. I don't know why I'm bothering to do the side. I'm just going to wind up painting it all the same color when I edge this. But yeah, so the wash, when we go over it, will fill in all the holes that right now are being pains in the ass and won't fill. This is also GW paint, so it's pretty thick. I should really be thinning this. In fact, let's do that. Much better consistency. Gives you much greater control over the paint too, if if you thin. It'll go where you want instead of having to fight to get it to almost leave the brush. It's one of the reasons I like working with contrast. The flow is already there. Now you will see it came out a lot lighter though because it thinned it. Just means I'll go back over it with another coat. Do. Of course, it does also run the problem of then flowing where you don't necessarily want it to, as it's kind of doing here. That's fine, as I said. The wash I'm going to do will fix a lot of that. Now, as we get the second coat onto these, that'll color them in nicely. Now, for the lunchbox, it's kind of a bluish color to it. Oof. Oh, that's a dead one. Let's go with a Signar highlight for the lunchbox. That should cause it to stand out just enough from our vault suit. Do, 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 do. hit the handle and lock with a bit of metallic real quick. Good. Then once it dries some, I'll edge it with yellow and maybe even do a VT on it for Vault-Tec, make it a Vault-Tec lunchbox. Now, I'm going to take my Basilicanum Gray. Let's see. Nope, still not dry enough. So I will take my red, wherever it's hiding, there, and do some coins real quick. Some caps, I mean. And those will blend in nicely as well once I do the wash over. So I just have to let that dry a little. Alright, so we're going to use our rust wash now. And we're going to apply a little bit of contrast medium as a flow improver. And I'm also going to use my not quite as good brush, because this stuff is kind of icky sometimes. Alright, so first we're going to, as you can see, I've already applied the black wash to the base as well as the yellow to the lunchbox. So, apply a very, well, I thought it was going to be light, but apparently is very much more than I wanted. That's fine. Rinse off the brush that we had, just kind of soak it all up and spread it around. Maybe a tad bit more on this one area here. Alright, and that'll be fine. So that's just for a light wash on the deck plating. And now for a hammerhead and the pole up to there. There we go. Now, last little bit is actually take a bit of black and apply it to pipe, the line here that runs. There we go. Perfect. Flowing a little too much, maybe. Yeah, so just take that back a bit. Okay, that'll be fine. Alright. So she is done. We just need to apply the ring and seal and be all set. Okay, so we have sealed the model now, so we are all set. As we can see, got caps, the Vault-Tec lunchbox, everything's looking pretty good. I do like how the coloring with that mix came for the Pip Boy. I think it matches quite nicely. Hammer's looking good. So yeah, just a example of what you can do with a 3D printer and the right files. So this is the file from Modiphius. This actually is the supported one. So if I wanted to change up the way these layer lines are on the left side of the face, I would have to use the unsupported one and maybe come up with my own. But overall, as long as you're looking at it from this side as opposed to this side, and honestly on the tabletop no one's going to notice. Once it's down here at this level, you really don't notice any of the layer lines. So I'm pretty happy with how it came out. As I said, I did get my first playthrough this week in settlement mode with a friend of mine. I'm looking at maybe doing battle reports as I get more up to speed and things open up a bit more. I've got some plans on how to do that, so we may have those in the future. We did not have a terrain video this week because I was busy playing with my new toy, but I was playing with my new toy for a good reason. So this is a piece from a Kickstarter I did from M3 Studios that is basically a little slave den. So I'm going to be converting a Plasticville factory into a raider den. So I've got things like a raider throne here and stuff I've printed up to go inside it. So got a lot of work done, just not a lot of stuff to show on a video. So next week we'll start hopefully with the assembly and getting an idea of how things look. But yep, go ahead, let me know if you want to see anything in particular as always, and we'll see you next week.